the devotional practice in I mean, your example is that you're just very enlivened by you're like very bubbly to speak about Krishna and to read about Krishna. And so, how can we take shelter of these like main processes when sometimes our mind gets like fatigue? We're kind of like in a distressed state or fatigue, and it's in those states. It's kind of because our consciousness is on a lower level. It's hard to yeah, I don't know. It's just like it's just sometimes it's hard to in that state of consciousness want to do these right things. So, do you have any advice on that? I'd be very grateful.
Haribol, yeah, great question, because I definitely have had my fair share of times like that. And yeah, I guess even recently, or just thinking about the mind being disturbed, like for example, I had lately for the past couple of years just had a very tough time concentrating, and I think more and more devotees are or people in Kali Yuga like I just wonder about the future because so many people have ADHD now, or there's just more distractions and it becomes tough, and Kali Yuga is just more and more disturbing. So, top thing I recommend, and my saving grace has been devotees, just making a plan with devotees. And it's honestly made me appreciate them a lot more and realizing, like, oh, I thought that this was by my own strength and I just love reading and this and that. And then actually, no. If it was up to me in my mind, I just, your mind wants some relief, and then it goes to whatever past samskaras or things like the internet, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. But if you make a plan with a devotee, even if you really don't want to, then it becomes a lot easier to read. And my experience lately has been if I try to read my set number of time every day by myself, it's pretty tough, but if I just make plans with the devotees around me, or even devotees that I used to be friend, or I mean, like I used to live with, then man, the time can go. Even if you set a goal to read an hour, 2 hours, 30, whatever it is, it goes by so fast, and it's so much more relishable. Like that is Krishna's system, is that it's even more relishable in the association of devotees. And then one thing that I also have noticed as a symptom of that is that it actually gives you, after you do that for some time, it gives you more momentum because you're like, hey, that was actually pretty relishable when I did that the other day with those devotees. And it gives you momentum to then be able to, like, let's say somebody drops out last minute, they can't read or whatever, then it gives you some momentum then to be able to like just be more fixed in doing it by yourself. But that's my top recommendation, and it's definitely been a humbling experience. But yeah, I don't know if that helps. Madhukar and Leela is also good at that. She's made. I remember she would be like always making plans with the devotees to read. So does that help?
Oh my God, that's super helpful. And yeah, I think I've heard you say that before, and I have I have noticed how powerful that is, and how relishable it is, and how much more realizations you get by doing that and like discussing and just even reading together. Like something, yeah, there's
Yeah.
some potency behind it. I mean, it is Krishna's system, Machita Margita Prana. Krishna says, "My devotees take great pleasure in getting together and glorifying me." So, and then that yeah, like accountability, and you're gonna feel much, much more reluctant to like tell a devotee like, "Oh, I can't read today. Like I have to break our plans," rather than if you make those plans to yourself. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, that was super helpful. Super helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay. But yeah, there's one other thing on that is that I think it's also I've heard great people, devotees who have lived in the ashram before and then are entering like whatever, a situation where they have more independence, or they're entering grihastha ashram, or they're just living and they don't get as much association of devotees, that they're like, at that point, it's not even optional. Like that's literally what you have to do to get it done. Whereas I think for me, I'm like, but I used to live in the ashram and I used to be able to just read by myself. But I think that you also just like the general atmosphere in the ashram and you're seeing each other all the time. So it's like that's either your break from other people or it's just in the ether of just like everybody's doing this. So then it's easier to read by oneself. But then if you move out of that kind of atmosphere, then it's like, no, it becomes what I realize is that at least for me, it's not even optional at this point to like, do I read with devotees or do I not? It's like the majority of my time reading has to be with devotees. So yeah, it's definitely humbling, but it's just like a shift in what's that called? A shift in strategy, just like we were talking about the like soldier, got to have their strategy based on their circumstances. So that's at least been my recent realization. Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Maybe, well, anybody on this call. I was going to say Dark or Blue yesterday, but anybody. Okay. Anybody else have any questions or comments in general before we end?
Reading group
Oh,
with one or more devotees is always a spectacular way to become disciplined about your reading. It provides reinforcement. It becomes much more reliable. You're kind of forced to show up and do it.
hmm.
You're obligated, to be there. And yeah, it solves all the problems of regular reading. It's there's a million little tricks, but of all of them, nothing really works better than just a reading group, and that's what legions of devotees all over the movement will do. Very, very effective, as you are experiencing. Works very well. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? Okay. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for this opportunity, and I loved hearing from you all. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hope everyone has a wonderful day in Krishna service.